The Road to Diabetes. Transmitter 42. Today we return to the topic of health with emphasis on understanding the long road many Americans unknowingly are on a route straight to diabetes. Kimberley Huggins, a keto, low-carb certified primal health coach and nutrition expert, shows us the potholes created by our food and health systems. It doesn't have to be this way, but it requires attention to the details available to anyone who pays attention. Please welcome Kimberley Huggins to Transmitter 42. Well, welcome back, Kimberley.
Hello.
It's been a while, but now we're back on the path. A lot of things have happened, of course, with the MAHA movement. Hopefully some
good news.
Good news. We'll see.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify, as I guess Reagan said, as well as I believe a certain communist out of Russia.
Oh, we won't go
Good
there.
advice is good advice, no matter where you have it, especially if you're trying to stay alive in the cutthroat world of communism. But anyway, the road to diabetes. Am I right in saying this path has been with us since the 19th century when diabetes was known as the sugar?
Yeah, I would probably even say before that. I know the ancient Greeks knew there was a certain disease, but they didn't know what it was. That I don't even know that they had a name for it. But you can find where Hippocrates actually, who was a doctor back then, or whatever you would call what they called a doctor back then, in some of his observations, he actually noticed that, and I have no idea why they were capturing it or storing it or whatever, but they had patients, and they would, I guess it was, if they were patients, they were probably not able to move around very well. So when they went to the bathroom, when they had to urinate, they would have them obviously do it in some kind of container, that ancient version of a bedpan or something like that, and they would take it outside to dump it, and probably through an accident, something didn't get dumped or whatever, they noticed that it was drawing flies or drawing insects. And that's the first recorded observation of what we would say now is spilling sugar into your urine, which happens with people who are very advanced, but that's a whole nother thing. But to your point, it's been observed and known for a very, very long time. And I would actually just point out that we have known a way to control it without medication. And I would say a way to control it that costs nothing. I mean, in the grand scheme of things. We have known for a very long time how to control it. We just gave that up when insulin was discovered.
Out of convenience? Out of a desire to sell insulin? Was there a patent on insulin?
No, actually, I believe the people that discovered insulin wanted it to be available to whoever. So don't ask me why it's so ridiculously expensive now, because I think they sold the patent for $1. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm not really sure about that part of it. But yeah, when they discovered insulin, obviously it was life-changing, because back then, when they discovered insulin, it was mainly for type 1s who the type 1 children, they just died. They starved to death because they had no way to get energy into their cells, because that's what insulin does. And if you're a type 1, you can't make it. It's actually if you want to think of it, if you're born that way, it's essentially a birth defect. And so when insulin was discovered, it was literally life-changing for these parents. Their children had a death sentence, and now they didn't.
How long did children live with it back then? Do you know?
I don't really know. I mean, I've seen pictures of children who they probably look like they're 4 or 5, but they're absolutely emaciated. So it's kind of like you don't really know. They look very sick.
Gosh, I can imagine not knowing what your kid is sick. What's making them sick? And I wonder how long it took them to figure out that they had diabetes.
I don't know. I don't think they. I don't even know that they called it that back then, but I would have to go back and look into that part of it a little bit more. But I think once insulin was discovered, I don't really know exactly when the pivot was made, because if you go back in history, actual type 2 diabetes, which is what we're going to talk about today, because type 1 is different. Type 1 is it's essentially a birth defect or some kind of defect. Your pancreas doesn't work, doesn't produce insulin for whatever reason. And although I would say people who are type 1s, if they, through their diet, just like we're going to talk about here in a minute, they will have to take a lot less insulin if they control their diet. Mm-hmm. And if they stay active and some other things. But
stay away from ingredients that aggravates the insulin issues.
But diet is huge. Also, being in the weight room is huge, because if you have muscles, that gives the sugar someplace to go. I forgot where I was going. But somewhere along the way, I know where I was going. We used to have, you can go back and find books that were written in the 1700s, of treatment plans for people. It was usually extremely wealthy people, because they had access to whatever food they wanted, whatever treats they wanted, whatever sugar they wanted. I mean, back then, very few people in the grand scheme of the world had access to sugar. You just didn't. It was only the really wealthy people who did. And so those were the people that actually had the first illnesses, basically from what I would say is carbohydrate toxicity.
Interesting. You have to tell us more about that in a moment.
And so you can go and you can find the treatment plan, and it's all written out. It's about eating meat, not eating sugar, not eating bread, not eating rice, all what we would call a low to no carb diet now. They knew it back then. It was called something different. And we got away from that. And that's even like today. If you go into a hospital, okay, their formula for dealing with people who are diabetic or have high blood sugar, their treatment is, well, eat whatever you want, and then we'll just dose you. We'll just give you enough insulin to cover whatever you're eating. Instead of, we've gone the medical route, I guess you could call it that, but we don't have to. And I think one thing that people don't understand, because we've been taught that way for reasons, but there is no medication you can take, including insulin, okay? And insulin's not really medication. Now, we take it, so we could call it that, because it's like we take a drug. But insulin in your body is a hormone.
Okay.
But there's no thing that you take like that, a medication, a drug, or whatever, that does not have a side effect. So, for instance, in the case of insulin, it's why so many diabetics have a problem with this. Most diabetics that I know who are type 2, they're usually overweight and they're desperate to lose weight. For them, it's more about their health, a health reason. Than, everybody that is overweight would probably like to lose weight to look good. But if you're already diabetic, it's usually about your health, okay? And the doctors, now I'm not a doctor, I'm giving you my opinion, okay? But the doctors will never tell you that as long as you are taking insulin, you will never lose weight.
Really?
Because insulin is a fat-storing hormone. So as long as your insulin is high, your body will not let the weight go.
So insulin's role is to, through whatever apparatus, is to take glucose in the bloodstream and store it exclusively in fat? Or does it store it anywhere else?
Well, no. Let's go back to a minute. So we think of glucose in our body. We think of it, I mean, that's how we think of it. Or, our glucose is high, our sugar is high. Okay, if you're diabetic or you live with someone that's diabetic, just about everybody knows someone that's a diabetic. That's maybe how you think of it. But I think you can understand it better if you think of the glucose and the sugar as energy. Okay. So your body is a fantastic, amazing thing. It can do so many things, and it can heal itself in so many ways. And it has, you need to think of it like it's a compilation of systems. So if X happens, you take whatever into your body to eat. And it gets translated in your body. It turns into sugar, okay? Your body can only handle 1 teaspoon of sugar in its blood at a time. Okay, your body out in your body can handle a whole lot of things, but the blood cannot. Can only handle 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now I know. Imagine in your head what a teaspoon looks like an actual measuring teaspoon, which is even smaller than a teaspoon you eat with, really. Okay, that's nothing. Now, so I want you to think about that. That's how much your blood can take when you go and have the Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee that has 53 grams of sugar in it. By the way, I believe it's 3 or 4 grams is a teaspoon. I'm not really up on my metrics,
imperial conversions.
But it's something like that.
Fair enough.
So what is your body going to do? I mean, that's obviously your body. This is what happens. Say you drink the Dunkin' Donuts drink, okay? Your body is literally screaming, alert, alert, alert. We've got to do something with all this energy, okay? And to kind of make the connection of why energy in you like that would be bad, okay? You're literally frying your nerves. Okay, that's why people with high blood sugar for a long time get neuropathy, which is nerve damage. That's why your organs get damaged. That's why your brain gets damaged. And for those of you who haven't heard the latest news, Alzheimer's and dementia is type 3 diabetes in your brain. Okay. You jack up your sugar constantly. Now, we've talked about here before the way to know you have a problem. Because remember, I talked about your body has all these systems. Okay. You can drink the sugar, and especially if you're young and healthy, an athlete like our son who's a football player, if he goes and gets his A1C checked, it'll be just fine because the insulin is doing its job. The insulin's going up, it's getting the sugar out of the blood, and so your A1C stays nice and low, okay? And that's all the doctor looks at. If that number's in the range, you're fine. You're fine. Check the box and move on, okay? But it's made your insulin high, and when you eat like that every day, every week, every month, year after year, your insulin stays high, which is why, as an adult living in America, you know, once you hit that wall at 25 and you start gaining weight, if you're not paying attention, okay, it's why you're gaining 2 pounds a year, 5 pounds a year, 10 pounds a year. Before you know it, you're carrying an extra 50.
Yep.
Okay? So your insulin, because your insulin stays high, remember I said before, you can't lose weight if your insulin's high. Okay? It's a fat storing hormone. And it really is an amazing thing. We'd all like to lose weight, but this comes from back, however many years you want to go, tens of thousands, millions, whether you believe in evolution, creation, whatever you believe. There was a time when humans walked the earth. We didn't live in little communities. We were hunter-gatherers, okay? And fat storage kept us alive. That's the only way we made it through history. Well, even whether you like it or not, our bodies still function like that, okay? We have not evolved to how we currently live. And how we're currently living is what's killing us. So I digress. I think I got off there. So when your insulin stays high, it keeps your A1C down. Your average of your blood sugar, it's doing the job. But your insulin shouldn't be high all the time. If your insulin's high all the time, it means you have too much energy in your body. And eventually, you're going to be on the road to diabetes. So I guess we're just going to talk. This is such a big subject, but some of the things that will lead you to diabetes, I'm going to talk about some of those here today. Some habits that you may have that you need to adjust, because diabetes, type 2 diabetes, now this will be a controversial statement, but type 2 diabetes is 100%, I'll say that again, 100% controllable and reversible.
Through?
Diet is the biggest one, okay? And I think, we've talked about food on this podcast enough. You could probably figure that out.
I wanted to just kind of close out the introduction you just did here with a bit of disappointment I have with, I guess, America, that we've known about this topic for a good while now, the whole 20th century. Yes, you learn new things, but generally speaking, we've known about it. And in the 19th century, I think you've remarked before that there was indeed processes put in place to counteract, basically through diet. I can't remember the setting, but let's just say the knowledge has been there for a good while, and now the current food system apparently is assaulting us.
Well, we're being poisoned. There's no doubt about it.
That's a bold statement.
We are. And there's different... The one thing I would say about this, there's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. We are being poisoned for either money. I would say there are some other nefarious reasons out there that, and some of it's ignorance.
Some of it is purely profit motive, right? I mean, farm more efficiently. You make stuff with more sugar. I mean, some of this is benign, I suppose, but...
Well, I think this is the thing now. I think when some of these things started, they were benign. May have started from a place of, I'll use the example, this is kind of not really diabetes, but glyphosate is sprayed on all the crops here in this country. It's not in Europe, okay? So if you go to Europe and you eat bread over there, it doesn't bloat you and, but over here, it does, okay? So you don't have a gluten sensitivity. You have a glyphosate sensitivity. Probably, that's more than likely. So my point in saying all that is we do have a problem with soil erosion because we're not doing farming. We're not doing regenerative farming anymore, which is what we used to do and what we need to get back to. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Whatever Europe's doing, I have no idea how they're getting around that and not using some sort of weed killer like glyphosate.
Well, I would also say there's other weed killers that aren't necessarily bad for humans. So my point in saying I don't want this to all be about glyphosate, but, we started glyphosate for a good reason. Now, the farmers needed something. We needed the soil to not be eroded, yada, 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 yada. But as usual, we've done things backwards here. I don't know if nobody asked if there would be a problem, if it would make humans sick. Did they test it? My guess is no, because like I said, we do everything backwards here. We just implement it into society, and then 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years down the road when people are, dying of whatever, go back and look at mesothelioma and asbestos, same thing, okay? Then they pull it off the market, okay? But I kind of want to turn this around about to button up that intro in that I think part of what happened with getting away from just diet to control diabetes is that with the discovery and the implement of insulin, it was also kind of at the same time where there was this push from Rockefeller, who basically was the father of the pharmaceutical industry, right? And he and a lot of other people, probably because our parents, we talk about our parents, they're known as like the atomic age children, okay? Back then, people were brought up thinking everything natural could be improved by man. We could make it better. We could make it modern. We could come up with something to fix it or make it better or, and I think that was all part of that. And then, of course, the pharmaceutical industry was born, and they saw that as they could see the cash cow. If they had a pill for this and a pill for that and a pill for that and a pill for, if they literally could give us a pill for our actual food and we never had to eat food and just take the pill, they would probably do that. But coming back around from that,
I just had a vision of the show called Quark. Some of you might know what that's about. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. And then I think this was a big one. Once we mapped or discovered, however you want to call it, DNA and the human genome, once we knew about genes, okay?
Fairly recent
Then it was Katie bar the door, because now what has happened, every ill a person has is blamed on your genes. Oh, it's just bad luck. Oh, it's just, we feel so bad for you, but it's your genes. You can't do it. And that is 100% bull. Now, your genes may have something to do, and I hate to use the analogy of a gun, but I can't really think of it, So your genes are the gun. It's loaded, okay? So, but then the behavior is what pulls the trigger. So you can have whatever gene you have. If, God bless you, if your father had a heart attack, he had the widowmaker at 40 and died, doesn't mean you're going to have a widowmaker at 40 and die. But if you eat all the sugar and you smoke and you never exercise and you do all the bad stuff, because he probably did it too, you're going to have the widowmaker and die.
Okay.
But so my point in telling that is your blood sugar control, which is what we're talking about now, which is basically diabetes if you don't control it, okay? It's in your daily habits. It's what you do every day. And your habits control your health, not your genes. It's you and what you do every day, okay? And one more thing about medication, and then we'll get to the list. Your body is not lacking medication. Okay, you don't have diabetes because you have a metformin deficiency.
Okay.
You don't have diabetes because you have a Jardiance deficiency. Okay? I hope I can say those. I don't know if I can, but your body is lacking something. And it may have lacked several things for years, 10, 20, 30 years. I can take all I've learned about health right now, and I can go back into my life and I can see where I was having problems in high school that my body was saying, like, when you're having a problem, and that's your body's cry for help. Now, you don't know what you don't know. But now that I know, you can see how 40 years, 50 years worth of problems, this is how it ends up. You get these awful things that nobody wants. You get a stroke, you get cardiovascular disease, you get diabetes, you get neuropathy, you get kidney disease, you get all the things. So but your body's not lacking meds. It's lacking movement, nutrients, sleep, and sunlight. So I guess getting back to the list of you're on the road to diabetes if you're not controlling your diet. Okay. And this is the other thing. We're surrounded by so much crap now, how we live. Remember I talked about hunter-gatherers? Our bodies are still functioning like hunter-gatherers, but our lifestyle is nothing like that. So if you are not doing something to combat all this stuff, you will be sick. So it's just like you have to think of this as self-care. It's like you brush your teeth, you take a bath. You have to try and mitigate these things in your life. So diet is huge. You've got to eat cleaner than you are. I'm not saying you got to be 100%. I'm not saying you have to be, you don't need to make yourself crazy. But you got to eat real food. You got to cut out the sugar. You got to cut out the seed oils because that's not real food. You got to cut out or cut back on starches because starches are sugar. We are eating way too much sugar.
Starches are sugar?
Yes, starches are sugar. So bread, pasta, potatoes. And I mean, okay, back to our son, the football player. He can probably eat them. I mean, he's got big muscles, so he's got a lot of place to store his energy. Okay? I, who was one step away from type 2 diabetes, and I've had cancer, and I've had fatty liver disease, and whatever else, I can't eat the starches. I can't eat the potatoes. I can't eat the bread. I can't eat the pasta.
You were one step away, and you managed to back away from that, right?
Right. I hate to use A1C. I mean, that moderated, that's what everyone looks at. But the bigger issue is the fasting insulin. So I had a fasting insulin of 20, which is not good. You want it under 4 to give you a reference. Most people, if they took a fasting insulin test, just eating the SAD diet, standard American diet, would be a lot higher. I've seen fasting insulin of 40, 60, 90. Somebody I saw had 90. That's horrible. But I cut it in half in a month. So that's how quick it can moderate if you do the things.
You definitely wrapped your arms around this problem and attacked it pretty forcefully,
right.
Didn't you?
But so being on the road to dehydration, the diet, obviously, that's the number one thing. But there's other things that affect your insulin. Okay, so remember, it's about sugar, but it's about high insulin because your body doesn't really want to have high insulin all the time. It's protecting itself when it's up high like that. So food, if you're eating the standard American diet, you're probably have some sort of gut disruption. Okay, so I know no one wants to read labels, but you got to, okay? Because all the food now has something, I won't say all of it, but a majority of the food now has something in it to make it cheaper for the company to make. So things that disrupt your gut would be stuff like carrageenan, xanthan gum, modified cornstarch, cellulose, frankenfoods, stuff that's not real food. Just eat real food. Real food, and this is the other thing. We've been doing this for so long, I think some people don't actually understand what real food is.
It gets lost in the noise now.
Doritos are not real food.
What?
Flavored yogurt is not real food.
It's pudding, right?
Right. Cereal is not real food.
You've told us a story about that in a previous episode, I believe.
So
Kellogg.
you gotta get that. Your diet affects so many things. It's also why our diet, we have nutrient deficiency. So if your body has a nutrient deficiency, most specifically vitamin D, you're on the road to diabetes.
So vitamin D and diabetes are interrelated. I did not know that.
Yeah,
I knew it was part of the immune system. I guess it has a lot of different roles.
Well, when your body has a nutrient deficiency, it is not as able to control things it's supposed to control. It has to work harder. But yes, to your point, some things are worse. I mean, like vitamin D deficiency is directly correlated to cancer. So
because of the immunosuppressant,
right.
Part of it.
And so just to let you know, that's why it's so important is you don't catch cancer. You don't get cancer. Now, you could have a genetic predisposition to it, okay? But cancer is in us all the time, just like a lot of other stuff is. It's whether your immune system can handle it or not. So if you're chronically vitamin D deficient, that affects your immune system, okay? And so just speaking as someone who I had breast cancer and then, it turns out I was also chronically vitamin D deficient. It raises your risk of like 50%.
America is chronically deficient in vitamin D. And I'll relay a quick story with my rheumatologist who is from Persia. He says that when he got here, he had no problem with vitamin D, and then once he was here for a while, he was vitamin D deficient. He detected my vitamin D deficient in 2007, where nobody else seemed to care.
They don't.
And he did, and he immediately gave me the prescription vitamin D, which is hardcore, and then I've been on vitamin D ever since.
And why do they not care? There's no money in vitamin D.
Could be, yes. Yeah. Anyway, I credit him for doing it and for him identifying the fact that he got transplanted and the problem followed him when he got here. So it's here that's the problem, a food system.
It is. And so just to let you know, our diets, this is the other thing. When you eat our diet, you think it just goes in you and just whatever. But if you're eating bad food, that's actually stripping stuff out of your system. Okay, so you're stripping vitamin D. Perfect example. If you eat a high sugar diet, which this is another thing people in America are chronically deficient in, that most people have no clue, is magnesium, because your body has to use the magnesium to process the sugar. So if you're eating sugar all the time, you have no magnesium. And then vitamin D doesn't have a way to get to where it needs to go, because vitamin D needs magnesium to get to where it needs to go. It's all like interconnected dominoes. So
beautiful thing, our bodies.
Yeah. So food, which leads to gut disruption. Another issue is chronic dehydration. People who are chronically dehydrated have a 34% higher risk of diabetes. And I just think that's because, once again, we were talking about how your body just can't function as well. I'm hitting some of the like little small things. Prolonged sitting. This is a real problem in our society, movement in general. But if you have a desk job, if you're in front of a computer all day, like a lot of people are, prolonged sitting is killing us. You know, they say sitting is a new smoking. It's not far from the truth, because remember I said, back to hunter-gatherers, nobody sat around. Nobody sat around waiting for the deer to walk by or the elk or the whatever they were looking for. It didn't come to you. You went to it. So sitting is killing us. We need movement. These are big, because the ones I'm going to go over now, because I used to do these. And we think we can do it and get away with it, but it's horrible. Nighttime eating, horrible. Okay. Once the sun is down, you should be eating nothing.
I have a hunch that a lot of people feel they're living in luxury when they eat, when they want what they want.
Right. And this is the thing. You just have to move it earlier. You have to take control of your schedule. You have plenty of time to eat. You just have to think about it and you have to arrange it. Okay. And, but nighttime eating wrecks your metabolism, and I can prove it. I don't know if you know this, but the way, the sumo wrestlers, the
Yes.
big, huge guys, okay, the way they get that big is they eat a buffet every night at midnight before they go to bed.
So they sleep on it.
That's how they get that big. I mean, over time, obviously, okay? So it absolutely wrecks your metabolism. Your insulin sensitivity goes down. Your beta cell function goes down. And there's a 42% higher risk of diabetes in late eaters. You need to finish your eating at least 3 hours before you go to bed. That means snacks too, because you shouldn't be snacking anyway, but that's a whole nother podcast. So that messes you up. And kind of tied with that, because this is about your circadian rhythm, blue light. So what we're around all the time, our computers, our phones, TVs, not so much, but I guess some comes out of a TV. And if you've got the horrible lights in your house, blue light after sunset blocks your glucose uptake, and it also reduces melatonin. So it's one of the reasons you're having a hard time sleeping. Over 10 years, it's a 3 times higher risk of diabetes just from blue light exposure. Okay.
And this is basically unplugging us from the natural rhythm that we're supposed to be in.
Correct. So circadian rhythm, basically. We should be up with the sun.
Which is blue. It makes us wake up, gives us awakeness so we can accomplish our task, and then it gets dim and yellow and peaceful.
As the day, yeah. So that's not saying no exposure to blue light, but none in the evening. So I use, you can get the blue light filter for your phone and for your computer and your iPad and all the things. You can get blue light blocking glasses, all the stuff. I would do it because ultimately what this is doing is it's disrupting your circadian rhythm. Like I said before, we should be waking up with the sun. We should be, I'm not saying you have to go to bed at 5 p.m. in the winter. Like, what's the earliest it gets dark in the winter? 4:30 sometimes?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to go to sleep then. Okay, but you do need to understand that your health is tied to that. Because remember, just because we're living whatever life we're living now, our bodies don't like that. Our bodies are still living the hunter-gatherer life. And you're confusing it. It doesn't understand. And so it's stressed out. That's how it translates in your body, is stress. So all of our lights and staying up late and blue light and eating whenever we want, and eating every 2 hours and eating carbohydrate-rich food and having all the sugar we can shove in our faces, it's killing us because our bodies are 100% stressed out. It's not how our bodies can function. The other problem, to just go back to sleep, is sleep deprivation. It destroys your glucose control. If you have 5 nights of less than 6 hours of sleep, your insulin sensitivity is wrecked. Your control of your hunger hormone is wrecked. Your fullness, the satiety hormone is wrecked. Which is why they've done studies. They did a week, people only giving them 4 hours of sleep, and they ended up eating more. They actually consumed more calories because you don't have any control over that. And shift workers, 67% higher diabetes risk than people who
Shift meaning third shift.
Yeah. So they're up at night when they shouldn't be, and they're sleeping in the day when they shouldn't be. Now, I mean, I get it. Somebody's got to do it, but maybe you should only do it for a little while.
And the premium pay that some of them get, it sounds like it's well earned if it's a health risk like
Right.
this.
Or, I mean, some people, they're just, I mean, as long as this is the thing. If you know it's a risk and you choose, okay. But the problem is when you don't know. So I didn't know a lot of this stuff, and I don't think a lot of people do. And that's a problem. So any of those things, I'll just finish since we talked about it a little. You need to reduce your stress level. And once again, how we're living our lives now is a stress to your body. And going back to hormones, so cortisol is your stress hormone, okay? And your body is created or evolved, whatever you believe, to handle a certain amount of stress. I mean, like back in hunter-gatherers days, when you were getting chased by the saber-toothed tiger, because the tiger was looking for food too, and you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he was chasing you, okay, that's what kept you alive. But once the tiger wasn't chasing you anymore, the cortisol came down. That never happens in our world, because even though we aren't getting chased by a tiger, we're eating every 2 hours, which your body doesn't like. We're exposed to blue light. Somebody yelled at us on the road rage. You had a road rage incident. Your kids are getting bullied at school. Your boss is on your tail about, did you call so-and-so? I mean, it's never ending. And it's a constant stress. It's not good for your body. If you break it up, like when you go out and let's say you go to the gym and you lift really heavy that day. Okay, that your body was stressed. But that was good because it was a moment in time and then it was over. But all this other constant stress in the background all the time is not good. So whatever that means for you, sustained cortisol, diabetes risk, 45%, and your liver releases more sugar. So that's more sugar in your blood, which your body doesn't want, really. So over time, it's a risk for diabetes. So you have to find a way to reduce stress, whatever that is for you. If it's meditation, if it's walking, if it's sauna, if it's massage, whatever you find that works for you to reduce your stress, do it.
Next.
I think that's my list. You're on the road to diabetes if you're eating bad, if you're sleeping bad, if you're not getting exercise.
On that point, not getting exercise, you mentioned move. And I'm assuming that it doesn't really require a stunning amount of movement to make it good, like just walking?
Walking is amazing. The return on investment for walking is highly underrated. And the days of killing yourself with cardio are over. Because all that's doing, especially women are guilty of this. If you are spending an hour on the treadmill or the elliptical or the rower or the stair stepper or whatever machine you're on, and you're on it for an hour because you think, oh, got to get my cardio in, got to lose, because it's going to help me burn, and I'm going to burn the calories away. You are killing yourself for nothing. All you're doing is jacking your cortisol, and as long as your cortisol is high, you're never going to lose weight either. So the whole thing of, if you're just talking about weight loss, not talking about diabetes, but the whole thing of eat less, move more to lose weight is a bunch of crap. That's a whole nother podcast.
This is the attitude where food calories are food calories. Energy.
Calories in. Seco is psycho. So calories in, calories out, a seco.
Okay.
Is psycho. I just made that up. I thought it was pretty good. But anyway, movement is great for blood sugar control because it gives an outlet for the energy. Remember I talked about
to burn it up in your muscles
yes.
as you use them.
And this is also why you need to be in the gym when you are older. Okay, now everybody's like, I can't afford to be in the gym. You can afford a gym. I think Planet Fitness is $10 a month. You can't afford not to be in the gym. Okay? Because it's going to cost you a lot more in the future if you get diabetes and have to go to kidney dialysis than if you just went to the gym for $10 a month. Get to the gym. lift weights, do strength training. For all you women out there who are freaked out, I don't want to look like a man. I don't want to get muscle. You can't. That's impossible unless you're taking roids, okay? You're not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I've seen women who have done a very good job at the gym, and they still look like a woman.
Correct. And this is the thing. Because men and women are different. They're built different. They have different muscles. They gain muscle mass differently, okay? Get in the gym. That is way better for you to do your health and lose weight than cardio. And it gives your energy someplace to go in your muscles. Now, that doesn't mean if you're in the gym, you can eat whatever you want. Okay? You can't eat crap food. You still got to eat well. And if you have a health condition like you're metabolically dysfunctional, like 90% of America is, you got to get off the carbs. Our carbohydrate-rich diet was never meant to be.
I was noticing on the the diabetes.org, so that's the ADA, American Diabetes Association. I was looking at their menu choices, and I guess I was pleased to see at the bottom they have a low carbohydrate meal pattern.
Yeah, they finally were forced.
Is that recent?
Yes.
So if I go to archive.org, this will pop up recently.
I don't know what that is, but...
Snapshots over time, so they can't say that was on there the whole time.
But what I would recommend, ditch the ADA, the American Diabetes Association, and start following the American Diabetes Society. It's a different organization. There are doctors on there who are not going to tell you what you want to hear, like the ADA, which has a recipe on there for fruit cobbler with oatmeal, which is death for a diabetic. Okay? No diabetic should be eating oatmeal. And if you believe oatmeal is healthy, you just bought the line that you were sold. I get it, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm looking here and quality carbohydrate. This is a different meal. This is one of the 4 meal plans. Quality carbohydrates are included, but limited. This language is new.
Right, because they finally got caught, basically, because of social media now. People are talking and sharing information, and they're not the only one to come to now. They're not the only ones. So they're trying to salvage their reputation. Too late. But anyway, my philosophy, they want most doctors, most medical places like the ADA, they want you to everything in moderation. Okay, moderation is what got you here.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no moderation if you are sick. If you are a type 2 diabetic, there is no amount of safe carbohydrate. It really isn't.
I'm going to say that
sugar.
In our current society, well, dessert and birthday cake and things like that were special occasion treats.
Right.
And now they've become part of the moderation in daily consumption.
Yeah, you're right. And that is a problem because I know people who go to Cold Stone ice cream every day. Every day. It's the same thing with your coffee. Remember I talked about at the beginning, your Dunkin' Donuts, 55 grams of sugar? Really? And I mean, I don't even believe in counting the calories, but some of those drinks have the entire day's worth of calories that you're supposed to have, that they say, in the drink. So that's like, I mean, if you were really following it, like you would have that drink and nothing else for the rest of the day. But it's the sugar that's killing us. And the carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are sugar. And this will be another podcast. You don't need carbohydrates for anything. Now, your body can use them. That's why your body's great. Your body can burn it. Your body can burn it and it's quick energy, but you don't need them. You do need protein. You do need fat. Yes, fat. You need a lot of fat.
Animal fat, we're talking.
Right.
not vegetable oil fat.
No, all that. That's another podcast. But
I think we've already made it. But
you don't. Well, we haven't really talked about protein, fat, carbs. But carbs are not essential. If you never, ever, ever had another carbohydrate in your life, you would not die. But you can't. You have to have protein and you have to have fat. Okay? And this is one of the reasons why people don't do well on vegan diets, because they're not getting it. They're not getting what they need. And when I say you need protein, I'm talking about animal protein. Plant protein exists, but it is inferior. End with that controversial statement.
Inferior. So
our bodies, whatever you believe, created, evolved, whatever, our bodies need animal protein to perform optimally. Okay? So when we settled and got agriculture into our lives, okay, agriculture is, our bodies can use it totally, but it is filler food. It is slave food. It is peasant food. It is not optimal food for a human. You can live on it. You can exist on it. It's great in times of famine because you can store rice, you can store beans, you can, all the things, okay? But it's not optimal for the human body. The human body prefers meat and fat, and lots of fat. And I'm not saying you have to be carnivore. You can eat carbs, but we were never meant to eat a high carbohydrate diet like we're doing now. And so we were never meant to consume the amount of sugar we're consuming, because carbohydrates are sugar. And I think that's where the disconnect is. People don't think of starch as sugar. It literally, if you put it in your mouth, it turns to sugar right then. It's a complex carb is two sugar molecules hooked together, and as soon as it goes in your mouth, the saliva cleaves it, and it's a simple sugar.
That is something that most people don't understand.
Right.
And so this carb-heavy world of ours is saturated with, I'm assuming, a food product from big ag.
Well, I think we go back to pieces of the puzzle. There's a lot of different stuff there. A lot of this came about because culture was purposefully changed to make us be a consumer culture. Okay, consumerism. So what does that mean? Buy. What does that mean? Buy all the time. And with food, that's okay. They want to, it's okay. Partly the washer dryer you had when you were a kid, you probably moved out of your house and left it there, and it's still working.
Right.
But now we all know they don't last that long. Now, I don't know how often you might have to get one, but we all know, we've talked about it before, it's a throwaway culture. You buy something, it lasts for, a year, 2 years, maybe 5. You junk it and get another one, okay? Food's the same way, okay? They're used to, and I left this off my list about the road to diabetes. If you're snacking all the time, stop it. You're literally killing yourself because you're jacking your food.
That's the 5 meal a day kind of thing, right?
Right.
Even though some people, they just snack. They don't think about 5 days. They just eat all the time.
They're grazers.
Grazers,
We weren't meant to be grazers, okay? Because think about hunter-gatherer. Do you think he could just walk through the woods and there was just food everywhere? Would you go out in the woods right now and if you found a berry or a mushroom, that's a better example, would you eat it? No, because it might kill you. But they knew if they killed a deer, we can eat that. What if they didn't find a deer? Oh, you didn't eat that day.
Yes, and fruits were certainly, I guess they would take advantage of fruits when they found them.
Right.
And like you said, you fatten up for the winter to survive it. But
there's no fruit like the fruit we have now.
Truth. I was watching a show about how George Washington's kitchen made these things it was like an orange whipped dessert thing.
Called a fool.
I think so, yeah. But the keynote was made from oranges from the Mediterranean, and he made sure that we knew that the oranges back then were not as sweet as they are now.
And they were smaller.
Probably.
Everything was smaller. Apples were smaller. Strawberries, they were not the size they are now.
By the way, I learned that from the YouTube channel Townsend's. Excellent. Recommend it.
Bananas. And a side note, if you're diabetic, stop eating fruit. Okay, fruit is not good for you if you're diabetic. Nope. Maybe blueberries once in a while, but don't listen to the American Diabetes Association who tells you can have a banana with your oatmeal every day. You're killing yourself.
The banana is a poison pill almost, isn't it?
22 grams of sugar in a banana. And then I don't want to hear, well, but the fiber. The fiber ain't doing nothing for you. The sugar's killing you.
How much? Okay, fiber.
Well, we're getting kind of off topic, but...
We got 3 or 4 minutes left.
This is going to be controversial, too. We hear it all the time, but fiber is not needed. Now, if you're eating absolute crap, yeah, maybe you need fiber to push it through your intestine. Okay, but fiber, by its very nature, it's not digestible. It's not absorbable. So why do you need it?
So I will say this. When I was eating the normal SAD American diet, the SAD, I benefited from fiber. Now what I think I've learned is fiber allows that diet to function and get through you, which you shouldn't have to need.
Right. So I would say if you're eating real food on a continuous basis, and especially if you're animal food, and I don't want to hear this bull that is going around about meat rots in your colon. That is a bunch of crap. Okay, and meat is not going to give you colorectal cancer either.
Give our intestinal system a little more credit, I think.
Well, I mean, going back to hunter-gatherer, how would they have survived? How would the human species have survived if meat rotted in their colon? And so just to back up there a minute, your stomach acid as a human, there's only like 2 animals on the planet that have a stronger stomach acid than humans. That would be hyenas and I forgot the other one. Maybe vultures. But anyway, we have stronger stomach acid than lions, than wolves. Okay? So don't tell me meat rots in your colon. It's like impossible. And this is a little TMI, but the more meat you eat, like a lot of people get really hooked, get spun up about how many times they go to the bathroom, okay? You won't need to go to the bathroom that much if you're eating more animal protein, because guess what? Your body's absorbing it. It's digesting it. It's taking all that good stuff that it needs, all the fat, all the nutrients, all the stuff.
I'm sure there's still waste product, but we're talking about it's a lot less.
Right. A lot less. So, really didn't expect to go down that road today. But back to, that got started on this. Stop snacking. Stop it. That is 100% driven by consumerism. The only people that need to be eating every 2 hours are hypoglycemics because they have a problem with their blood sugar. It's too low. Okay? Diabetics don't have that problem. Stop snacking. You're killing yourself.
Sounds like the easiest 2 things: walk,
diet,
and eat a whole lot less, and sleep. Eat, walk, sleep.
And move. Please move.
Thank you, Kimberly. See you next time, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Transmitter 42 podcast. If you would like to send us feedback or suggestions, please email us at radioshow@t42.am or send a note via U.S. mail to Transmitter 42 LLC, P.O. Box 100, Remington, Virginia 22734. All our podcasts are available for your favorite player. Visit t42.am for our catalog. Transmitter 42.